But Kevin, what's going on lately with Bright Brain TV? Because I see this whole thing about Phase 4. I'm like, what in the hell is Phase 4? And how can we know more about it? Just tell us so that we, will rush and subscribe to Bright Brain TV so that we can, watch more of what you got going on.
Well, it's a great time for people to do it because this entire week we hate art. I'll go back to what you're asking, but we hate out the barrier of art. It's kind of been hijacked by the bourgeoisie. It kind of always was, but it's more prevalent now. So with streamers upping their prices and hitting people with ads and saying you can't share with your family, look, we don't give a shit if you get 5 friends, you all throw $5 up, and you get a yearly account and just share the fuck out of it. We don't keep track of it. We don't care. We encourage it. I hope your mom, your grandma, and maybe not your grandma, are all using it, but. So Phase 4, a lot of people ask me that who are kind of newer or like found us through Rome and haven't been with us from the beginning. So the way Right Brain works is it's like we're not like the other streamers where we're putting out like hundreds of content a week and sort of it's more supposed to be like the old TV days in a sense where you get a TV guide every month and you'll find a TV guide on the site. You can find it in the top click down. You can find it in the written work section, but the TV guide every month tells you hints of everything that's going to come out. We can't tell you what's going to come out because we now know that we have competitors who are also in the small boutique streaming world who are keeping a lot of tabs on us, which we didn't know. And I don't want to get too much into that, but we just have to be a little more quiet about what we do because we don't have tons of money. So we always have to be a little bit one step ahead. But basically, every phase of Right Brain is 5 months, right? So if you think about a year, you do 5 months on, and it's like a tasting menu. Not only do we curate each month so that all the content makes sense around each other and kind of build a lineup, we then make sure that all 5 of these months are all kind of like you were in cooking. You bring out the appetizer. Like every month is curated to be one whole chunk, and that's called a phase. It's 5 months of content straight. 2-3 times a week we drop a new thing, and then we take a month off, and we just have to just we take the money we got from people and we add new features to the site, make it faster, new server. We just did a new search engine that we cleaned up. We added a new feature this time that I'll get into, but. So every phase has been a 5-month lineup and the new features, and the site's just grown and grown. I mean, if you saw phase 1, I don't think I even knew Rome back then. Oh man, that shit looked like garbage, man. Like heaping dumpster fire. Like it looked like Angel Fire 1995 website. Like if you remember those, it's horrible. And I remember going to a film festival when we officially launched the site. I was at a film festival in Kansas, an underground festival, and I told everyone go sign up for the website. And like that night, I'm waiting in my hotel room that they paid for, and not one sign up. And then I'm looking at it on my phone. I'm like, this thing takes like 30 minutes to load. It was a mess. So if you saw it from the beginning, now it almost looks Netflix quality to where we came from. And every 5 months, we promise a new, more daring lineup and new features. So the site actually continues to grow and unlock, almost like not a video game, but like so. The big thing about Phase 4 that I'm so fucking excited about is we've installed a virtual theater on the website. Now, people are thinking like a virtual theater, like why would I pay to go to a virtual theater? Well, here's the thing, like we're not like Netflix or whatever happened during COVID. We would never try to take away the human interaction of going to a local theater. And if you're a filmmaker, go to a local theater and do your screenings. But most of the theaters have been bought out or hijacked, just like film festivals. The same problem where there's that lack of entry. Or we've been quoted like $150 an hour to rent the theater, no help with promotion. So if you can line it up with your local theater, do that. Get your friends, get your family, get your supporters. But if you have like an audience that's spread around the internet and like us spread on 5 continents, why not add another stop on your tour? We do a 50-50 ticket split, which is the cheapest ticket split you'll ever find. We do 10% if you want to do that for a direct action. We did 15% in our last one. Make the tickets like $3 to $5, and we actually do it live virtually, and we actually will be having filmmakers Q&A in afterwards. And we've got a filmmaker from Berlin in the new lineup. They followed runaways on the streets who were like 17 years old and about to have a kid, all the way up till the birth of the child. We had a guy, one of the films we're playing, Century of Smoke, was shot in Laos, which is like, we've never even heard of that, on an opium farm where a guy is trapped by his addiction because the government in Laos wants you to, grow opium. So it's legal. So your heroin addiction is growing in your backyard by the field full. So it's like the filmmaker who spent a year in Laos is going to virtually come in from France, and you'll be able to ask him questions and interact with them. So the virtual theater is like, it's like we've just built a theater on the website. And for us, that was something we planned 2 years ago. A lot of things we planned 2 years ago are coming into fruition now. We have like a 5-year plan. So we didn't think we'd have a theater this quick. We thought phase 6, phase 7. So phase 4 means it's been 4 5-month lineups, so 20 months, almost 2 years now.
Wow.
All right, it's a long-winded thing, but you know.
No, but this is really cool. And so I'm looking through your Twitter feed right now, and the one thing that sticks out to me is one of the new things that you have involved with your Phase 4. And let me get this, because I almost spit out my drink in a good way. You know how when
I was
something,
gonna say the suspense was like, uh-oh.
yeah, it was like okay, before I show it. Remember the movie Coming to America? Please tell me you saw it.
I love it. Love
Okay.
it.
Okay. You remember when Arsenio Hall was dressed like a woman and he
Mhm.
said, I just want to tell you I've been watching you all this evening and I'm going to tear you apart and your friend too. And he spits out his drink. So that's how I spat out my drink. But
Wow. Okay.
in a good way.
Good.
Because
Good.
I saw this and I was just like, wait a minute. Hold up. Are these guys serious? Look at this.
No.
This guy, yo. Okay, I'm gonna read it. It says this month we're dropping the long-awaited embargoed films of Cuba. 7 films from one of the most stigmatized and sanctioned countries in the world. Cuban cinema is a beacon of revolutionary film. Film intros will be done by Cuban film historian Victor Fowler of the prestigious ACAIC. This is massive, bro.
Thank you.
This is in fact, in front of you, I'm gonna like and retweet it
Oh
right now
wow. Thank you. Yeah.
because this is amazing.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's the follow-up, the first series we did. And it was actually, I'm not lying, when we conceived Right Brain in a basement somewhere in a cloud of smoke, just trying to think of ideas of like, well, we want to be the anti-Netflix. We want to be the thing where you can find things you can't find anywhere. One of the first ideas that came to mind was like the sanctioned films of North Korea. And we're like, yeah, that's a great, what would Netflix never fucking have that I'd love to see? And so we actually did do the sanctioned films of North Korea in Phase 2. And we still have it up. If anyone's a member, go check that out. We got film introductions by a guy named Dr. Dermot Hudson, who has been to the DPRK like 18 times and does these little introductions. So like the thing is, a lot of people with these kind of series, like even the Cuba one, which I'll get to, is like, I think with cinema in general, people feel when they go on the site sometimes a tad bit overwhelmed. And so they're like, man, it's just such a dense medium and there's so much history and so many countries. What we try to do is say, let's do the best we can to push you in the right direction, but there's nothing wrong with just clicking something random. But for something like DPRK or Cuba that's so dense, we want you to know kind of like what movie you're going to watch so you can understand the historical context behind it, because that's what makes a movie powerful. Like you could watch The Flower Girl, the DPRK film, and say, wow, this is a great film. It looks like it was made in Hollywood. It's a beautiful story. And I didn't know about the whole Japanese occupation of Korea. But when you understand the context of like, Kim's father being a cinema buff, having actually written books on cinema and art and just loving film and being having a grandfather who helped write screenplays. I mean, it just changes the whole context to it. So with the Cuba thing, that was always the follow-up. If we do the sanctioned films of DPRK, if we can find someone who's been to DPRK to really illuminate us, then Cuba's got to be next. And, we reached out. It was actually harder to find a Cuban film historian, but there's this incredible institute that was actually established right after the Cuban Revolution. So 1959, they overthrow Batista. Castro tried the first time. They bought a yacht from Miami, I think, or Florida, and they loaded up with guerrillas, and they tried to overthrow Batista. They failed. They went back. They regrouped. Castro came back out, overthrew him, and they start this incredible institute called the ICAIC, which is the Cuban Institute of Cinematographic Art and Industry. And we happened to find a guy through there's a girl named Kala who I don't know if that's the pronunciation. I just met her. CA. If you don't mind me just checking, let me get her name right. Kala Walsh. She actually connected us with Victor, and when I found out he was a part of this institute and was a film historian, it was like great. But just if anyone's watching, not that there be any police officers watching, but we didn't pay anybody anything, right? So we didn't actually send money to Cuba. We looked into it, and there is ways to do it. If someone has a relative, it can be done. But he was willing to just do it. He just loves the idea, like we do, of just getting more people to watch films from places like Cuba. And like I think I told you before, art is a cultural echo, if you trust Hegel, of what's happening in the world, and probably even a better way to see history than a history book. Because history books, as you know, especially with what they teach in our schools, is written by the wealthy, by the bourgeoisie, who's in power. Art is created by oftentimes the people who are not. So the cultural echo is art, and I think that watching Cuban cinema is probably a better way to find out what's going on in Cuba in some ways.
Yeah, I mean that is that's probably one of the most base things I've ever heard you say. Because the thing is, like, if you want to know what's going on in the country, let them tell their story.
Yep. Yeah, cinema is this incredible language. We often call it in the industry. It's you know, the minute you cut 2 frames, they call it manipulation. I think it's actually before that, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's that, you know, using, you know, with most art forms, a lot of them, they're a singular thing. Like you paint in your room by yourself. You write at your typewriter. Cinema is like, you're more like a conductor. You're working with musicians, writers. You know, on the Rome project alone, that was, you know, 12 artists with different things they were good at. You had a graphic designer. The credits were done by somebody. The music was done by somebody. The violins in winter were done by students who go to a local school and are in the music program at a lower income school. So you had this it's just all these people working for one vision. And, you know, cinema as a language, from the way everything's framed. If you look at, I'm not in any way dapping her up, but Leni Riefenstahl, who was the director of Triumph of the Will, which was Hitler's, you know, he found his favorite cinematographer and had her shoot movies about him. Those movies and how she shot him at power angles and the way that she would frame him from below in this godlike thing made him larger than life. And it was so powerful that that language was used in Disney movies, in Star Wars. You know, you can actually frame by frame see Hitler rallies and Hitler speeches and how they use that for movies to show power dynamics, you know? So like, it gets really interesting when you have a country like Cuba utilizing these things, the rule of thirds and who's in what part of a frame and how are you lighting it. And they call lighting a film painting with light, and studied, you know, a lot of film lighting was studied from classic painting. So yeah, I people might say, like, movies, all this for movies, right brain TV, it's just movies. Like, well, first off, it's music, it's books. We have publishing, we have podcasts, but yeah, movies are the last weapon. I mean, journalism too, what you guys are doing. We need all of it though, because China, Cuba, all these countries that successfully caused revolutions, DPRK, or kicked Japanese invaders, imperialists out of their country, cinema was always an arm of everyone. I mean, that's what we're finding. We're finding films from countries I never saw anything from DPRK. And when you watch those 7 films, you learn a little bit about what's going on there, you know?
Mm-hmm. Man. And so I want to go, because there's so much more that you guys are doing. Let me see here. So there was this preview that you put out, and I would like to play it if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me share the screen.
Thank you so much for doing this, man. We don't do tons of podcasts, and usually people want to talk about Bernie, the squatter, Ukraine, and we just don't feel like doing that. Like, there's enough people doing it, you know?
Yeah. So here we go. Woo!
Saps el que és això, fill de puta?
Sí, sí.
Has estat al talego,
Sí.
no, nen?
Sí.
La pota pasta que m'adeus, on te la tens, nen?
Tio.
On te tens la pasta?
A la
On te
calaixera.
la tens?
A la calaixera,
Aixeca't
tio.
així la cara com un puto colador,
A la calaixera,
Vull la puta
tio.
pasta. Fermín representa escapora.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
If you don't mind, if you haven't seen it, just a request, if you could play the trailer that shows everything that's coming in the next 5 months, if you haven't seen it, or maybe you have seen it, I would be honored to show that, because I feel like that gives a good idea of kind of what's ahead in a longer scale. It's like a little longer, but it's like a minute and a half.
Oh, okay. So let me take a look for it. You said the
I could just
trailer.
retweet it. So I think it'd be cool. I think it gives a really good roundabout idea, and then we can get into at your discretion any aspect of what's coming that you might want to see. Hold on a second here. I posted it. Oh, it's at the top of my feed. All right, yeah. If you go to the top of my feed, that's the pinned thing, and that's like the whole 5 months that's coming basically.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see. Okay. All right. Okay. This is gonna be awesome. All right. Hang on. JB, hurry up, JB. Hurry up, man.
You haven't seen it? You haven't seen it?
No, I have not. I actually want to do it with fresh eyes. So I'll be surprised too on stream. All right. I'm ready. Are you?
I'm ready.
All right. By the way, guys, like the stream. All right. Let's go.
Viviu en indiferència, a la superfície. Sou tan superficials com la merda que sura per sobre del mar. Crítics, periodistes, intel·lectuals. Perquè penseu que esteu per sobre, que teniu una intel·ligència superior. Però aquí estem.
Has estat al telèfon, nen? La pota pasta que m'adeus, on te la tens, nen? On te tens la pasta?
A la calaixera.
On te la tens?
A la calaixera,
Aixeca't
tio.
així la cara com un puto colador,
A la calaixera,
Vull la puta
tio.
pasta.
Viviu en indiferència.
So this started yesterday.
Yep.
Wow, man. Amazing job, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we cut all the trailers, right? All the synopsis, anything you see, the uploads. The only other person we have that's really doing the day-to-day is our developer. And so like we do 5 months. It's just like every other day and dropping like 80 trailers a year and writing up everything and organizing. And you have to curate it and you have to find the licensing and find the filmmaker who's shooting in Lao and wire them money and work out agreements. And it's like you have to hire a CPA. And like, people sometimes say like, are you guys a legit streaming? So I mean, yeah, we're licensed LLC and I hate all that shit. I hate capitalism. I don't like having a CPA and filing taxes and K5s, but yeah, I mean, it's like if we want to build a foundation that we can maybe one day leave behind to others, it's like you have to. It's the only way. And we hated having to charge tickets for the Rome project. That's why we put the mutual aid direct action on top. But if we can't, and people, we had a couple people critique us. I got to be honest, I love it, but we come from more of the cinema background, and some of the YouTube, Twitter left, not all of them are left space. Not you guys, not your legit followers. They feel like a little bit entitled. Where like I'll just get like DMs saying, make a movie about this. It's not even like you're nicely asking. It's like, okay, so spend all my life savings, which is what I did on the Rome doc. Spend 8 months working nonstop with no pay. We don't pay ourselves. This is for free, and we're working to hope to create something. It's like the amount of work that goes in while running the website with 2 people is insane. So it's like you have to understand we can't do 5 docs a year, and we really have to pick and choose. That's why we picked Rome. Is like we're like, this is a movie, and we have to have this feeling like we can work on this for 8 months straight, and we will not be bored of it. We're going to be like, up until the moment we dropped the Rome doc, and even now we're so hyped on it, and like that's when we make a movie. If someone wanted us to make a movie on subtitles for deaf people, it's like, I mean, yeah, we'd love to, but I mean, A, am I the one to tell the story? B, 8 months of working on that one thing and spending everything we have is it's just not realistic.
Yeah, you have to be choosy. And the thing is, it's like, I hate to put it this way, but it's like, why, like, don't you have, aren't some other people that you can reach out to as well that might be able to take this? Because, like, for instance, there's a lot of different stories that a lot of people that want me to talk about, but I can't talk about everything that everybody wants me to talk about. I choose what I find interesting to me, and if it's mutually interesting between you and me, then I'll pick it. And if it is, something that I can, have a deep dive into, and people got to remember, like somebody like me, I have my limitations. Where everybody else has 7 days a week, I have 4 days a week. So my week is basically cut in half, because when it comes to dialysis, even if you see me tweeting while I'm at dialysis, my brain is half shut off. So the thing is, like, I can only do so much. And so this is why I think we need more of you, so that there's more people who can maybe tackle different projects, outside of, what you may be doing.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, we had met with a couple smaller streaming sites that actually reached out to us, and we're kind of like, we thought at first like they're trying to be our friend, but we were suspicious because maybe they think we're after their audience, and then they started kind of probing. We realized, okay, they do think we're after their audience, and we were saying, hey, well, maybe we can all throw in on a catalog, these bigger movie catalogs, or if you buy in bulk, it's better. So maybe, like, if you really are on this sort of leftist tip, like, maybe we all throw in together and get a better deal. But they wanted to kind of big brother us and take away our autonomy, like buy us out or something, and merge. And for us, it was like, it's like, well, what would you think if you found out there's another Right Brain? We'd be fucking happy. We'd love it. I hope there's 10 of them. Not because what makes us unique is not that we're a streaming site or even an underground streaming site. It's the curation and things we find, things we do, and the way we think about it. But if there were 5 of them, that would be amazing. Like, we could work together. For me, I love working with Rome. Was really cool because it was like the beginning of this idea of like building, not working within factions, but letting them be autonomous. Like, now, we don't all need to be one. We can be one movement, but we can be factions in one movement. You look at like Fred Hampton, these incredible people. They never asked. They wanted a coalition, but they weren't trying to tell groups to get. Groups have different needs and interests to give up their autonomy. Why not have a place where you have 5 right brains that offer different things, and they work together sometimes, and you know what I mean? You pick the one you like the best. I think there's enough people out there looking for art. And so, I mean, that our philosophy is, I hope more people say, you know what, maybe I don't need 50 grand to start. All we heard when we wanted to start the streaming site, because we couldn't get our work on any platform, was like, we had no option. We didn't want to start a streaming site. We kind of had to. It was like, we tried everything. And we even tried having agents for a while. We somehow we got agents who were interested in us. They couldn't market us. Nobody wanted to deal with us. So they dropped us. And so, like, for us, it just seems like you could have multiple people doing this, and there's this entry point where they're like, oh, you need to be a tech guy to do it. And we were getting quoted from people like $50K and stuff. And it's like, you don't need to do that. We started the site and it looked like shit, and we use members' money. We don't take any profit. We throw it in. That's why the site looks as good as it does. We don't skim anything right now. We've never taken a dime. We've just crossed our 1,188th sale, and we've never taken any profit. I mean, that's hard to conceive, but when you are creating a foundation, make the site better, make it faster, make it quicker. Start to, this is truly, like, we don't consider ourselves a communist streaming site, but it is because it's a communal element of, like, everyone's throwing in $5, or if you're doing a yearly, like $3, and we're putting all of it into making this house we're all using better and better and faster. And you give us money, okay, let's build a theater. Not let's take profit. Let's build a fucking theater. It was not cheap to find out how to erect a virtual theater that can do live, Q&As, and also have ticket sales, and be able to hold a membership while buying a ticket, and have even building the part where you click, buy a ticket. Like, that wasn't easy to assemble, believe it or not. It's not a template. It's coded from scratch from an incredible coder. So, everything we do and the more money we make has made us get better movies. If you're around the beginning, we weren't even getting monthly movies. We were like putting out night crawlers and some of the stuff we made. But once the money came in, we're getting movies from Lao, and the quality of movies has been going up. I would say there's some movies we played that were not great. And some people ask us, like, well, why don't you play more films from Palestine? I mean, we've written stuff about Palestine on the site. We have a articles we paid for, and things that we've done like that. And we have a book about it, and we have their liberation manual. But we kind of read the audience. Like, we did play a movie that was banned in England called Leela Khaled Hijacker, about the first woman ever hijacked an airplane, an Israeli airplane, Palestinian woman. This beautiful, mysterious, badass woman who, and nobody watched it. Everybody says Free Palestine, and it was like $3, and the money was going. We paid her agent, and she's a Palestinian filmmaker, and none of the people showed up for it. So we just have to take it like as we go. If no one's going to show up for a movie, I mean, God, we'd play 10 Palestinian films if more people would show up for it. It's sad because I know people are broke, but just even what we watch our members watching, it seems like people sometimes tag an issue, but don't. Maybe it's easy to tag it, but the engagement, because you think that would have been a big one for people. We were so excited to play it. We have no regret.
Yeah, I mean, there's I think part of it is because there's a lot of people who were being thrown. There's so many different things that are being thrown our way, and some of it is more, how can I put it? It's more fast food cinema, if that makes any sense.
It does, yeah. I watch it too. I mean, we all do.
And the fast food cinema, it they pump it out. It pumps it out, makes close to $1 billion, and it's highly, it has big name actors, high price CGI, explosions, it's Michael Bay's wet dream. And so that's what we have in our face constantly from the Hulus and the Netflixes and the Amazons. And so then when you see a more indie film or a smaller production, then it kind of makes you go, well, how is this interesting? But then that's one of the reasons why it kind of desensitizes us to more of the foundations of filmmaking. So it's just interesting because we're constantly being fed that, and I think the films that you guys are curating are more of an intellectually heavy film. It's like, this cotton candy is bright, it's beautiful, and it's huge. But once you bite into it, you realize it's fluff. Versus some of the stuff that you guys are putting out, it's the collard greens, it's the mac and cheese, it's the meatloaf, it's the rice and potatoes. You know what I mean?
We'll take that compliment, man.
So you guys are putting out something that's going to give you that intellectual itis, so you have to chew over it over time, right? But the other stuff is just, oh, that was great. All right, let's go to the next one. You know what I mean? So that's what it feels like.
No, you're totally nailing it, and it's the fear that we have, because when you eat too much cotton candy, your teeth fall out. So there's the whole, we're always thinking, but at the same time, we watch it too. The only thing that we're always trying to be cautious out now, even though we love a good movie, is I watch Netflix. I mean, I watch 80s horror movies, and I love it all. And you got to be careful with the new pop stuff, how much of it is being pushed with an agenda. I mean, you look at Top Gun being a recruiting tool for the military. You look at Call of Duty as you look at movies that subtly put Russia and China as the villains, as the super villains. Even the Bond movies is dressed up imperialism. What is Bond more than a CIA intelligence agent that's been made to be sexy, when he's really going to other countries and spying on people and trying to assassinate or take out somebody? And the villain's always a character. And I like Bond, but they're like a character of like a Russian guy with the accent being deceitful. And you look at Goldeneye, it's like about a Russian former intelligence guy who flipped to Russia and wants to blow up the US with a satellite. It's like the countries that are the most violent in the world: imperialism, genocide, colonialism, spying on their citizens, on their allies, deceitful. They're the ones making the movies. And it's like I said, with history, they're the history writers. And the shame of that is now it's not just the history books. They completely own the sea of information for film too. So when we look back, we'll say Top Gun, Bond, these heroes, when even though they are fiction, I'm not, it's the crazy part to me is in Star Wars, you grew up rooting against the imperialists, and now the imperialists are making films, right? So like they're the ones they are the dark side. I mean, the people you hated in those movies, they indoctrinated you in schools. You're probably 8 years old when you saw Star Wars with your dad and hated the imperialists, or saw Indiana Jones and hated the Nazis. And then you went to school and they indoctrinated you, not through trans where they're indoctrinating you with trans. No, they indoctrinated you with imperialism and war and convincing you this stuff is cool and virtuous and heroic, and that slavery was so long ago and no need to worry. I mean, these things that, and they transfer your brain. And by the end, you don't even realize that the people who you were rooting against in the movies, the Nazis you rooted against were now funding the dark side you were against, the invaders with Darth Vader. You're voting for them. I mean, that's what Hollywood's done. And so we do need more people to be making films that I think, whether it's us or somebody else, and we'll always be a home to anybody that wants to put a camera in a unique place and tell a unique story that only they can. I think the thing with our first doc being about Bernie was great in the sense that was a regret, but a wake-up call that if you're going to make films about people, don't make them about politicians. Politicians are just high-end carnival barkers. The old guy with the stick walking around saying, step right up, give us your money. You can win. You can succeed, when it's completely rigged, right? Like they're carnies, high-end carnies standing on a soapbox yelling, come get your medicine. I feel like, but making a movie about Rome now, like how often you get to go to Detroit and walk around with somebody of that kind of an enigma, that kind of a feel. I mean, beyond the social stuff, that guy on camera is just gold. I mean, he's just fascinating, and the things in his face, sometimes you just hold on Rome and let him, he'll kind of be talking and he'll lose himself for a minute. And I'm not saying in a good way, but the pain is real and it hits you in the gut. And, we need more film like that. We need to wake the people up. I always thought, like, I don't want you to sit on your couch all day and watch Right Brain. I mean, for one thing, we don't have enough content. For another thing, like, we want you to watch one movie on Right Brain and fucking go out of your house and go try to convince people to unionize, or go fucking, occupy a politician's building or whatever. Like, do not just sit on your couch and veg to this kind of content. It's just, that's not what it's made for. And that's why we only drop, you'll see the TV guide. I saw you looking through it. That's all you're getting this month. And, really appreciate that and what we already have, but we're not going to drop 8,000 things on you. And I think you and I come from different worlds. Like, we're two different sides of the same coin. Tell me if I'm wrong. You have to put out content constantly. So I look at what you guys do and say, like, it's unbelievable how many streams you're able to do, how you're able to stay on top of this news that is constantly shifting, the tide turning. We'll take 8 months and just put, like, we're punching one hard punch and you're jabbing for a long time. And I think they both serve strong purpose, but we look at you guys like, how the fuck do they pull that off?
Lots of reading. Lots of reading. And yeah. And it's just it's a completely different world, and both worlds we have to fight against this brainwashing machine that constantly is telling us you're okay, nothing's wrong with the system, you just need to either take a break or take this medication, or here's this show that takes you away from it all, or take this drug, or they'll say you're just not working hard enough. You know what I mean? Or many different things that they will do to it's a manipulation. Like, for instance, we will watch movies like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Or let's just go straight to Black Panther, right? Great acting, especially by Michael B. Jordan, I have to admit, right?
Yeah.
And then he talks about liberating people. And that's when a lot of us Black people were like, yeah, Team Killmonger. But then he kills the people who are with him. And we're sitting there going, yeah, no, that wouldn't have happened in real life. If they were actually all together, that wouldn't have happened. And so it just goes to show that we got to remember, it's still a film that tailors itself to the imperialist narrative, right? And it's the same thing in, this realm, because you can go to MSNBC, you can go to CNN, you can watch an Ali Velshi, and he'll talk about, oh, well, yeah, they have universal health care in Canada where I'm from. Why don't we have that? Blah, blah, blah. But then he'll turn around and still support and make a narrative for the war in Ukraine. And it's like, wait a minute. Oh, so you still are with the empire. They just make you think that, oh, we're going close to being against it. But then right when you think that they're going to go all the way, then they go, no, see, psych. You actually thought I was going to be against the empire. No. And that's how it goes.
There's two instances that if I could piggyback off that, well, that the way they did it was so sneaky, right? They do this all the time. Ryan Coogler made a great indie film about police killing a black person unprovoked in Fruitville Station. True story. Teenager was murdered. Phenomenal film, really challenged power. He was indie, so he didn't owe any censorship to it, and people loved it. So the capitalist Hollywood had to go with it, even though they probably didn't love it. They loved the police. Then they well, what do we do? We'll bring him into Disney and show him all the wonderful things and take another revolutionary filmmaker off the street. And they do it all the time, and they did it. I mean, Coogler sold out. Coogler now makes pretty terrible movies, being honest. And Black Panther, like you said, they neuter the radical elements. I bet he probably had a more radical idea that was neutered completely by the shareholders. And now he's all locked up in Disney contracts, and you're never going to probably get a revolutionary Ryan Coogler film again. And they do that just like the media does it. They'll swipe like a Mehdi Hassan or someone from The Intercept, and they'll just like Ryan Grimm and cash them out. And that's one of the reasons we built Right Brain is we don't have shareholders. We've been offered in the first year, believe it or not, to be sold, refused. We won't sell. We're not going to sell ads on the website. The only ad sales we do this is one thing we started doing that seemed to get a good reaction was when we're going to do virtual screenings now to help pay for the screening, especially if they don't sell as many tickets as we'd like, because members can watch some of the screenings, probably half of them just being a member. So we're not making ticket money, is selling ad space to small businesses, small creators, small filmmakers. Like we might get 100 passionate people, 50 people at a screening, even 30. Why pay Facebook for ads that nobody wants to see that they scroll past when you can get people at a movie theater where ads normally play and get your movie trailer, get your business scene. And then now the ads, instead of like YouTube where we're getting sent these ads from like Morgan Stanley and annoying companies because it's expensive. Like our last show, we did a virtual launch party last Saturday and we had ads from like a small soap company in the inner city of Trenton that just, for $5 and we played their trailer. And like, it was cool for us because not only did it help pay for the stream, all the ads were from people like us, just like small, you never see that on YouTube, like a small business owner. And so we're trying to also find ways to utilize something like ad space to help offset costs without sacrificing, like a page where you scroll around and there's like plaster at the top is like, get your, Viagra. And like at the bottom is some anime cartoon for a VPN, like whatever. Like, it's like, we'd rather, if we're going to have ads, put them in a place where they're not obtrusive to people or annoying or whatever. But yeah, I mean, to go back to to go back, you know what I mean? It's like you see it on these like
I just thought of something that they would say in a commercial for Viagra.
God, those were the worst.
It would be like, there's only one thing in life that should be this hard, It's just so just like,
that's great. That's great copywriting, though. I hope that guy got a promotion. I'm sure. I mean, having diabetes, you probably remember the commercials when we were growing up. It's like, my name is so and so. I got diabetes or whatever. It was like they were.
Oh yeah, the guy with the mustache.
Yeah, I mean, I love the days of like the public access after midnight. All this weird shit would be on. Those are people like us, like buying ad space on Channel 48 to play their weird slice or carrot thing they made at their house, and like the old invention ads and stuff are like, that's why we're trying to bring back relics of the past we like, but you have to embrace the new. And I think the site kind of tries to do that. Is like, you can read, you can watch old things, but you can do it in a new way. But yeah, no, I just but yeah, with the Hollywood thing and with the popcorn thing, it's like, and Cotton Candy and Black Panther. You saw it with the Messiah film. I mean, everyone was telling me I should be so amped that they're going to make a film about him. And with Judas and the Black Messiah, it was like, Yeah, but they did have the Rainbow Coalition stuff, but they kind of underplayed that. And my friend's like, no, it was in there. It's like, no, it wasn't in there like it should have been, or you'd be on the side with us getting ready to revolt. Like they didn't do it right, because if you're seeing a movie about Fred Hampton or Huey Newton or somebody, if it's done properly and using film to its full capacity, you should want to get off the couch and hit the streets. And I don't even know anyone talking about that film. And that's another case where they're like, let's just get it out there and everybody can get over this Fred Hampton. Let's move on or whatever. And
yeah, they really don't want to tell the truth about somebody that the state is actually assassinated. They wouldn't tell the full truth about the person. I mean, they whitewash. Like how many movies have we had about Martin Luther King Jr.?
Look at Malcolm by Spike Lee, and a lot of people I know hate Malcolm, who are huge film buffs, and black and white, and I actually love it. I love Spike Lee. I actually think that he's underrated. A lot of people will fuck with like his hits, but say his other stuff's too weird. But I actually think Spike Lee's a lot deeper than people think. He's not really a popcorn movie guy. He went to the same film school as Martin Scorsese. I think same class maybe. He's a little younger. Was cutting on film. Doing things you used to have to do where you have to cut he's a film buff. He's seen everything. He's not like a radical guy who just made movies because he wanted to. He's a well-rounded cinema buff, and he's seen it from all countries. And so like Spike Lee is a really good example of somebody who I still thought Black Klansman. I actually liked it, and I actually liked his Vietnam movie Netflix let him do, and I think they just thought no one's really going to fuck with this movie. But I think that The Five Bloods was awesome, and I think with Malcolm, some of those techniques he used I actually thought were really powerful, but for some people it took them out. But I thought that movie was pretty radical. I didn't think he packed too many punches with Malcolm, and I think making that in the 90s is crazy. Young Denzel wasn't as known. I don't know if I like Spike Lee like walking down the street doing he's a little over the top when he puts himself in the movie, and there's some silly elements, but I thought Malcolm was great. I think that's a very good movie about a figure. Che was a pretty good movie, the 3-hour movie by Soderbergh. It's a little boring, but not boring. It's a little slow, but I guess the Cuban Revolution was kind of slow. They were kind of out in the woods a lot, cooking around a fire, and it wasn't just a blood pit. It wasn't a Hamburger Hill. So but I think those kind of films, I hope we see more biopics about revolutionary figures, but we need right brain like groups, and we're a streaming site / studio. We need real studios with real money behind them. And I've met some people recently that reached out to us, and they're very clandestine, but they're in the industry. They see what we're doing, which shocked us, and they're like us, and they just don't talk about it, but in their own ways, they try to push a Boots Riley or whoever. He's just an example I'm using. We've met people who are allies, they say, and we believe it, and comrades even, and they're there. And if they can get the money behind them, and there are people who have money that aren't terrible, they're not evil, and they might even think in their head that they have good ideas to put out good things into the world. If we can get some studios like that are not relying on shareholders or advertisers, then why can't they put out? If enough people like it because of capitalism, they'll play it. And we need to get some of these movies in theaters and radicalize people again. Film needs to be another element, not just YouTube. Use YouTube to get your news, but use film, use paintings, go to the gallery, look at the stuff people were making. Some of these movies from Cuba and other places were made by people that were overthrowing the government or watching. If you look at work from DPRK, those works were overseen by Kim's dad, who was and grandfather, who were part of a revolution. Ain't nobody in fucking Hollywood ever barely even stood with a strike worker, let alone led or been part of a revolution. There's a lot of misconceptions. Like I meet leftists, they love Cuba and they love the hot button ones, but they won't fuck with DPRK. And I just can't tell them how wrong they are about Kim. Yeah. Totally wrong. I went to there's a Nutadol is a fantastic organization of DPRK unification activists. They want to see Korea be one. That's a big thing in DPRK. And I went to one of their screenings recently in Philly at a communist bookstore, in the back room, little screening, 20 people crammed in. And it was about a woman who gave up her citizenship. She was South Korean and German, gave up her citizenship to South Korea to go to DPRK to prove how oppressive it was, and came out of it loving it and being totally stunned. And the footage she captures is some of the only footage you can see like that. And DPRK is pretty tight, man. They give a ton of rice to every family for free every year.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
Yep.
I'm gonna get my plane ticket.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get my plane ticket.
Oh my gosh, there was Kim visits almost every, and Dad visited almost every farm in the country. I mean, could you imagine Joe Biden actually going on a farm with farmers and asking how to make it better? They were like, we need machines. Like, we can't do this by hand. He's like, all right, done. I mean, the idea of people starving in DPRK and the photos you see, it's like, yeah, it's if somebody snapped a photo of San Francisco, homeless alley and said that that's all of, and that is all of the USA. But in DPRK, it's like they pick these snapshots, but like, they get like an hour work break to dance in some factories, and there's like that's pretty big in the culture. Like put this dance track on, and they'll all like start dancing collectively. And like at the end of the day, they look at who did the best, and they'll congratulate him in front of everybody. And at the end of the day, they'll say who did the worst. Hey, pick it up next time. Like you don't see that at Starbucks. They don't give a shit. Like it's funny. Countries that are worker run or behind the philosophy of the worker, from the perspective of the worker, are the ones that our government hates. But like, I think that films like from the DPRK, that's why I like cinemas. That was my entry point. Even I was like, I did the sanctioned films because I went in with questions like, I don't know what the deal with DPRK is, and came out of doing the series like, wow, okay, like that's really cool to like get to have that experience while you're putting something out. Where I'm watching these introductions to the films by this guy, Dr. Dermot Hudson, and I'm being illuminated. Like, did you know in there, air traffic controllers are celebrities? These beautiful women who do a real 9-to-5 job, they're celebrities in DPRK. They get chased on the street instead of like Demi Moore, like a worker treated like a queen. Like it's crazy, man.
Wait. You're telling me that the workers are the biggest celebrities in the DPRK?
A lot of them, yeah. Air traffic controllers who are mostly women. So think about that. In the U.S., air traffic controllers are like men. You're having giant aircrafts being controlled by women, which is amazing, and they're like the face of it. And when they go down the street, people fucking love them. I mean, they're a cultural icon. These women they wear these like certain outfits that are government mandated. Like, it's like mind blowing, man. Like, I saw a guy that was like, his house was very cheap in DPRK, and he could move his floorboards and put hay down there, and he had a stove in his floorboards and heat for the winter. So if anything ever fails, he can and with their TVs, they have a solar panel hooked up. So for black and white, you can turn a dial for solar to minimize electricity. Like, because we've sanctioned the fuck out of them, if I'm allowed to say that, it's horrible we do it, but the ingenuity of how they've overcome it with like very minimal trading partners. They were saying like, we have to make our own clothes. Because we can't get imports and stuff, like we are making our clothes. Their clothes are made in DPRK, and like they send stuff to China under, they find ways to do that under the sanctions. But generally, like they make all these great clothes they can't really send anywhere. So the way they've struggled and hung on against the U.S. trying to starve them out and never kowtowing to the U.S. imperialism is a reason alone to just watch their films and revamp your opinion on DPRK. And Cuba is going to be fun to play, but I feel like a lot of people already ride hard for Cuba. I think that DPRK is even like and we're trying to do more of those. Like we're planning on doing a lineup of I don't want to say too much of what we're going to do, because there's some prying eyes. I doubt they're watching right now, but we're going to do a series of Vietnamese war films from the perspective of Vietnamese people. So, I mean, no one's ever seen the other side. Like we have about 30 collections that we haven't even done yet that are like, we wrote them all out, and we're always thinking of new ones, but that's one we're amped for. Is like, talk about a mind benders, like to see that. I mean, one of the DPRK films we have is a war epic action film, like a Schwarzenegger film with karate, but the villains are the Japanese invaders. And here are the like, it's crazy. He's like karate, and Americans too. Americans are the villains in these films. It's like fucking awesome.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I love watching all this shit. My life is watching a lot of incredible stuff, and I feel honored. And the thing is, I'm incredibly privileged. Not just saying white privilege, which I have. I've been very lucky. Yeah, I lost a parent, and I've been through a lot and lived on the street. But I'm overall very privileged. And when people bring up our privilege, we're like, yeah, and all people who have white privilege. And don't be offended when people get offended when you say white privilege when you're white. Stop being offended by it. No one's saying you didn't struggle. I know people that grew up in trailer parks and their mom did crack, or their dad I knew a girl that's dad used to force her to drive to the city to get him heroin on school nights because he was a Vietnam veteran. Like, no one's saying you don't have a struggle for being white. That's just everyone has struggles. What we're saying is you still have it. Imagine that, and you still have it better than people who, a little over 100 years ago were sold as property. You need to identify that and say that it's okay to embrace your white privilege and think of ways you can use it. Okay, you have more privilege than other people, so use that shit. Give that platform. Let Rome have that platform in your next film. If you have access to film equipment, if you have your own website, put Cuban work on the website. No one's saying to erase your privilege. Use that shit to help your brothers and sisters. Like, you have the opportunity. You are the role to play. You are, you have maybe one of the more powerful positions in this revolution because the institutions have helped you. I don't understand why people get offended by white privilege. Yes, we are white in right brain. We're privileged. So we're going to use that shit to put all the stuff out there that everybody else won't. Right. Like, that's a long rant, but that's just how I feel about it. Like,
yeah, if you were trying to get a hug out of me, bro, I definitely would give you a hug right now just for saying that.
Maybe hug something on my it's on my bucket list right under skydiving. Like, man, I hope